Satan, how are you this week? I am here representing the business managers of the Labor District Council and the great members of the Labor District Council. And you're listening to me live on Word 900 WRD AM. Also, you're joining us live on Word Facebook and also wordradio.com. We are sharing this feed on our Lecet Facebook page at Lecet, Lecet, Philly 5 County. And I'm just here to welcome everyone. We have a great show lined up for us today, but I need to do some in-house because I want to give a big shout out to Esteban Vera yesterday. Mr. Vera, business manager of Labor's Local 57, was honored by City Council as the first Hispanic to sit on the SEPTA board. So congratulations to our own Esteban Vera, business manager of Labor's Local 57. We are proud of you. He's going to do a great job as always, and I just want to make sure I got that shout out. I also have a couple of announcements. Let me pull it up on my cell phone. Let me just be honest. They're here. There is a cleanup day. Come join the Labor's, Chick-fil-A. They're one of the sponsors, Labor's Local 332, Next Generation, Chick-fil-A, and a host of other sponsors for Koya's Creation and Team Conqueror Cleanup Day on Saturday, tomorrow, April the 10th. The program starts from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's going to be on a 2600 block of Myrtlewood Street. That's 2600 block of Myrtlewood Street. Saturday, April the 10th. The program starts from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a cleanup day, and guess what, folks? Yes, they need volunteers. So if you live within that area, near that block, or on that block, around the corner, please come out and join the other sponsors and people who are going to be there, the other organizations, and cleaning up the neighborhood and cleaning up the block. So that should be good. You know, it's always good to come out to a nice, clean environment. So come and volunteer your services. They're going to be looking for you. Also, the sheriff, Rochelle Bilal, in partnership with Caring for Friends, Muslim Serve, and Bright Hope Baptist Church, presents a community food giveaway Saturday, April the 10th. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Bright Hope Baptist Church. The food will be given out in the parking lot area at 1601 North 12th Street. Please wear your face mask. And two, this is also sponsored in partnership, with the Sheriff Department and Labor's Local 57 and a host of other partners. People are out there, you know, they're just doing great things in the community, folks, to make sure that people are, you know, safe and clean and have food. They want to constantly, you know, during this whole COVID pandemic, make sure that everybody has the needs, the basic needs that they need, you know, in life to survive, to sustain. And I just love one thing about this whole pandemic is really brought people together. People have really volunteered a lot. They really jumped into the community and helping out in the community where needed. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone. If I didn't mention you're doing things this weekend, you know, bless you and all those who you intend to help, because they are thankful. You are worthy. And I'm just grateful to, like, you know, still tell these stories of people and still give out this information of people volunteering and want to help out these neighborhoods in need. So we have a great show lined up. We're going to go right into the show. Once again, you know, it's a lot going on in the school district, y'all. You know, in this budget, we're about to get $1.2 billion, and, you know, everybody's involved, want to make sure that the money goes where it's needed. With that being said, I know you're like, here we go with the laborers talking about school district, but let me tell you something. The schools are important to the laborers, and they're important to the laborers because when the schools have programs and resources in them that make sure the school and the kids have the best education possible, those children have the confidence that they need to secure a future in the trades or beyond. So that's why the laborers are constantly talking about education and what the schools need in the district to make sure our kids are successful, because it's imperative to make sure that they succeed. With that being said, we all know that right now our children are struggling. They're struggling, you know, during this pandemic, before the pandemic. They're struggling in math. They're struggling in literacy. And they don't have the confidence at times to apply for a building trade apprenticeship program, let alone take a test to get into the apprenticeship program. So when the Laborers Training Center opens and we're looking for individuals to recruit, there are certain requirements needed academically to make sure that they can join a program. And so that's why those conversations and these conversations are important. So when we have friends of the show who want to come on and join us to inform us of what's needed, how we can help to get the word out, to use this labor's platform to let the public know. If you're not on the Facebook, live conversations with CASA, Dr. Robin Cooper, who's going to join me, or the other public, platforms that they have on Zoom to tell you what's going on in the neighborhoods, the laborers choose to use this platform to get that information out to you. So with that being said, we have Teamster, local 502 CASA president on with me again. Miss Dr. Robin Cooper is here. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I just want to really applaud you again so everybody can hear because, we talk a lot. But the extraordinary event that you and your team put together Wednesday night, a call to action event that took place. And when I was listening back on it, I heard it was 154 people on the Zoom, attendance.
There were 200 people on.
Oh, 200 total. See, that's what I get for listening, in real time. But the real recording was, it was 200, huh? Listen, that was such a very informative event. I want you to, let the viewers know about Money Matters in School, moving schools from surviving to thriving, how it all came about so we can, talk to folks. And I'm encouraging people to call in because this is about the budget. This is about different priorities and positions that are needed to make our schools a success across the board, not just pockets of schools in different areas. We want them all to mirror each other. And with that being said, please call in the conversation at 215-634-8065, 1-866-361-0900. So tell us about how that event came about, Dr. Cooper.
I certainly will. First of all, thank you for having me once again on your show. I certainly appreciate it, and I certainly appreciate you. My team, they did a fabulous job, and I definitely want to acknowledge them at this time. Every year we are in crunch time around the budget, and there's never enough money in the budget to do what you need to do. And so what happens, principals have to make critical choices, and then they're cutting and cutting and cutting to the bone when the budget doesn't necessarily reflect the real needs of a school. And so this year, there was more of that where they have very little say in the budget, but then they're required to sign the budget. So if they have no say in the budget, our question is, then why are they being held accountable for decisions that they're not able to make? It's a lot that goes on in a school, especially around key positions. We have a lot of issues with special ed, a lot of issues with climate, and the work has intensified for the building principal. So we were asking for key positions that would make certain that any school climate is a stable climate that's ready and conducive for teaching and learning. And I think that's what our communities want. I know that's what our administrators want, and I definitely know that's what teachers want, a safe, sound learning environment. And so, my team, we've been talking about this, and we've been really working with the district throughout the year just around the fact of how the work has intensified to such a degree, but the work has intensified, but the resources haven't met the work intensification. And so, we decided we really need to have a conversation about the budget and how we can really move some things around so that the needs of the schools can be met. Because you could give us all the money you want to give us, if it doesn't reach the schools, then it's almost as if you didn't give us anything.
So are you afraid, because you opened up Pandora's box, are you afraid that some of that 1.2 billion, it might not trickle down to the point where it is actually, helping the needs of the school?
Well, in reference to that 1.2 billion, we want to make sure that the majority of that 1.2 billion reaches the school level. And so often the money is allotted, but it's allotted under something or the phrase, this will be used to support schools. And so what happens is you have people coming in and out, and that's not the reality for principals in buildings. They need permanent people who are stationed in those buildings or programs or whatever it is. We understand like this 1.2 billion is a special pot of money, stimulus money. So we understand that, but we also understand that it can be spent over a few years. And so when we're talking about over a few years, we are looking for a large pot of that money to go to make it easier on folks who are actually on the ground running to do the job. So we need folks we need the human resources to assist in our schools. So we're just saying we can no longer do more than less. We're surviving. And let me be clear, with the stellar administrators that we have in these schools, they are going to survive. They're going to survive. They're going to get the job done. However, we're saying we have to do more than survive. Right. We want to thrive. We want to be a premier district, and we believe that we have phenomenal administrators. We believe we can make it happen, but we're asking for the city and the state, the school board, to invest in our schools, to invest in the schools, not at central headquarters, not anywhere else, but to invest in the school with stable bodies, stable people, sound programming, and we can become the premier district that we know we've been there, and we can do it again.
I like that premier district. I really like the way that sounds, because that sounds, it gives confidence in people when you hear you have a premier district, going on in your school district. So do me a favor, during the event, there were key priorities, key positions that you all spoke about and talk about that were needed, or that are needed rather, in the school district. Tell us about those, priorities, those key positions that are needed.
We talked about several positions. We believe that in every school there must be an assistant principal, not in some, but in all. All these positions we're talking about, they need to be in all schools. We said an assistant principal. We indicated a math and a literacy lead, a climate manager, and a special education compliance monitor. And that's to ensure we spend a lot of money. I'm going to start with the special education compliance monitor. We spent millions of dollars just in lawsuits and things of that nature, because it's almost impossible for the building principal alone with a counselor to try to meet the needs of the special education students that are in the building without additional supports. And so what happens if you don't put the money on the front end, you're going to pay for it on the back end, because cases get backlogged, and then services that children need, you can't keep up. It's not because you're not trying. It's not because you're trying to break the special education laws. That's not it at all. It's because you don't have the manpower to be a special education monitor. That means that you are monitoring your special education program all day, every day. You can't take away, when you pull from a counselor to do that job, then that means that somewhere else, children who are in need of counseling, they're not receiving the counselor because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. The principal is not a special education case manager.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
The principal is not a special education manager. Now, the principal must oversee every program in that building, but if you divert the principal only to that, then now you don't have a principal. So we're constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul. You need that key position to be able to, A, get rid of the lawsuits. We cannot just think that it's other people's money and just pay out. If we put the resources on the front end, we wouldn't have to pay on the back end. That's why that special education compliance monitor is sorely needed. When you look at the work of the principal, you have gone from where they really manage just schools. They're managing everything within the school. They are managing all of the programs. They are doing everything. And we're saying for each principal, the work has intensified. Each principal needs an assistant. So if I'm an assistant superintendent, and I need you to hear me, I'm an assistant superintendent without any responsibility for students. But I have an array of staff around me that can assist me. I have an administrative assistant that can assist me. I'm not responsible for students. But you have a building principal who's responsible for students, parents, community organizations. They have to keep the ball running. They have to answer to the city and the state, but they don't get an assistant principal. So we believe that that's a key position. And then when we're talking about the guards and guardrails, the goals and guardrails, we're saying all of these things that should be in place, and we have these goals and guardrails, but you need a math and literacy leader in the building. If we're focused on making certain that our scores grow and our children are staying on course, then we need to make sure that the resources are there. And again, you know, we're asking teachers to become mathematicians. We're asking them to sit and study data all day long. Well, if I'm studying data, what happens to my children? So you need that math and literacy leader to be able to look at the trends, to really understand and analyze the data so that they can give the best program possible in regards to reading and math. So when you have these key positions, it lightens the load. It effectively allows the teachers to be able to teach. That's what they're in it for, to teach. If they wanted to be a statistician, they would have gone to school to do that. So you're spending an inordinate amount of time where you are only analyzing data. But I really want to be in the classroom working with the children. And so if they had a math and literacy lead, you'll be able to do that.
So wait a minute, hold that last position thought. I'm sorry, I gotta go to commercial.
Okay.
You know I love you. Hold on. We'll be right back. Keep listening, y'all. We'll be right back with more Labors Live.
Spring forward with premium nutrition meals. Enjoy a variety of new exciting entrees along with rewards and referrals program that pays you to eat and tell. As always, everything is chef crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered to your door. Just visit premiumnutritionmeals.com, where listeners get $10 off 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
The WURD Radio Newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio Newsletter. The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color. WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
Welcome back to More Labors Live. I'm your host, Tony State, and I'm here with Dr. Robin Cooper from CASA. Listen, Robin, we have two people on the line. I'm going to let Dr. Burns from Mount Airy speak. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, how are you?
I'm well. So I would like to ask Dr. Cooper, what can be done to make sure that most of the $1.2 billion American Rescue Plan funds are spent at the school level and where the money is needed most?
Everybody's talking about their money, Robin.
Yeah, it's a boatload of money, right?
Yes.
Well, what we've been asking folks to do is to make sure that you are reaching out to the mayor and that you are also reaching out to the school board, because we definitely want to have input. We can't decide what the district does, but we can give input, and we want to ensure that it reaches the school. This is why there are a number of surveys that are going around. However, the surveys where we've polled our members from beginning to end throughout the year, more is needed. Those key positions, those 5 key positions are what is needed to really allow us to move from a survival mode to a thriving mode. And we want to ensure that whatever it is with the 1.2 billion, that there are safeguards where folks are actually watching the money. But people don't realize once the money is released, then people assume that it's going where it's supposed to go. But we are saying that we need it for schools. We need it at the very basic level. So we're asking for that $1.2 billion to reach schools. We're asking for the administrators to have ample say, because we know what's best for our schools. I've said this throughout, Dr. Burns. I've said this throughout the whole entire pandemic. We have kept this district together during the pandemic, and so we think it's only right if you have a $1.2 billion stimulus package that we have ample say into that, because we are the leaders of the buildings, and we definitely want our children to get everything that they have coming to them.
So y'all hear that, folks? You got to reach out to your mayor and the school board. It's as simple as that. We're going to go to Catherine in West Philadelphia. Hey, Catherine.
Hey, hello. How are you? Hello, Dr. Cooper. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, I'm fine. So my question does relate to the goals and guardrails that have been adopted by the Board of Education. So I want to know specifically, how do you think the school district should address how it implements and monitors its goals and guardrails policies for each school based on identified and demonstrated student achievement as well as social emotional needs and required infrastructure improvements? So the guards and goal rails have to do with student achievement. They have to do with welcoming parents. It has to do with a safe building. So specifically, these are policies adopted by the Board of Ed to move the school district forward. And these are policies that should be implemented, school board policies adopted by the school board that should be implemented in school operations, school district operations, and as part of the responsibilities of the superintendent. So what do you think needs to be done specifically by each?
Well, you can't have a mandate that's unfunded. So it's really unfunded. So until we are given the adequate resources, I don't know how we reach the goals. It's impossible, because if you need 5 people, but you only have 2, then something is lacking somewhere else. So it's very difficult to get to where you need. I mean, you'll get somewhere near, but you just can't do it without having all of the pieces in place. So, you know, we want to make certain, and that's why we're spending so much time talking about the stimulus money, but also adequate funding past the stimulus, because this is a one-shot deal. So how do we use the one-shot deal, but also really open up this entire conversation around adequate funding for Philadelphia students? And then once we receive an adequate funding formula for Philadelphia students, then how do we ensure in Philadelphia that the bulk of whatever goes to the schools?
So are you saying the goals and guardrails that they put up when you talk about student achievement, safe building, and welcoming parents was something they put out there, but they still haven't adequately funded so you can actually have and you can meet those goals and guardrails? They just said, hey, this is what we come up with, this is what we want to happen, but they haven't accurately or adequately rather funded this program?
Absolutely.
Okay. So listen, we're going to go to another call. Woody in Winfield.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing, Woody?
Good. I just wanted to congratulate you because Cody would be here after he got his after he came off the show, and a lot of times we would talk about the show. But I want to say that you're doing a great job filling those shoes. It's a little difficult to fill Cody's shoes, but I hear you going along, and it's really falling in place properly, and you're doing a great job. I just wanted to say hats off to you.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to talk about the school district and how so many schools are doing 0% reading proficiency, and it's not. Doesn't have anything to do with the pandemic as we know it, but it's a pandemic when kids can't read, write, count, or spell. And when many of them graduate, some of them graduate, and I always say this all the time, with diplomas as receipts for educational services not rendered properly. Therefore, they can't fill out applications and get jobs. And many of their parents have also had the same problem. This is not a new thing with the inner city schools, particularly Philadelphia. 25% of the city is illiterate, and if they tell you that's a number, that means the number is actually higher. Right. You see, so when you talk about money coming, I think the schools get over $3 billion per year to educate kids, and now they have, what did you say it was, 1-point-something billion coming?
1.2 billion.
This is going to be money, but how do you not misdirect those funds so that something can get done? But even with all that money, if it's misdirected, which it seems like this whole misdirection of things, what started back in slavery when they said not to teach the slave to read, that was the law, not to do that. And right now, the children of those slaves are suffering because the spinoff is the inner city schools are not giving the proper education to our children and haven't been for decades.
Well, thank you for your thoughts, Woody.
So I just wanted to say that because it's on my heart. I can't get it off because I grew up in the inner city, and I understand what many of these young men who can't control their tempers and end up dead or killed because they just get frustrated. And the neighborhood now with gentrification is even worse because your environment used to help out because you could go to Mr. Sally's store or Mr. John's place or something like that. But now that all your neighborhood is torn down, there's really not a lot left, so you feel powerless. The only thing that gives you an artificial feel of power is a gun. And that's a shame that you have to go steep that low to look for power. Power should be how you can read, write, count, and spell. That's real power, and they just haven't gotten that in the city of Philadelphia. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's true.
Well, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. What is so true? Because at the end of the day, when you look at the people who are affected by the crime, the ones that are getting killed in the street and picking up the guns, you're talking about between 15 and 20-year-olds. So just imagine 10 years ago, that 15-year-old was 5, that 20-year-old was 10. So you're talking kindergarten and 5th graders that didn't have the programs, that didn't have the resources, because it all starts with education. They didn't have a chance. So now, because they slid by and slid through school that wasn't equipped, that the principals are stretched, that the teachers are stretched doing other people's jobs in addition to theirs, they weren't able to get something that they needed. This is what they turn to. So it's all a ripple effect, and that's what people don't understand. So what I want to ask you, Robbins, real quick is, some of the monies they already said, the 1.2 billion. I know you're like, I'm tired of talking about this, but listen, 325 million is supposed to go towards modernizing aging buildings, right? I spoke about the aging buildings, and yes, the aging buildings, we need the asbestos, we need, new modern looking buildings. But like I said, it doesn't matter how pretty the building looks. If there's no real substance academic wise on the inside, you really haven't achieved much. Also, they're saying that 350 million towards summer learning opportunities. Did they clarify or go into detail on what that really means? Because that was in the paper. So I'm assuming maybe it was discussed with you all. This is just like a quote from what they're, quoting the money will go to. Did they have a conversation about the summer learning opportunities, the 350 million, what that looks like?
No.
Yeah.
No. And I think that's where we have to do a little bit better, just in pulling in stakeholders. Because again, I just think collective dialogue is good. Because I mean, honestly, for far too long, we've been tinkering around the edges when it comes to budgets and school funding. But what we need is large-scale systemic change. Other districts, they're doing this, they know this, they're doing the charters within the district, they know it well. Do our children deserve any less? Like, for example, we're spending $350 million on learning opportunities for the summer. So for the learning opportunities for the summer, it will be climate support there for the summer. And that was the last position that I did not speak on, the need for the climate manager. So if you're spending $300 million for summer learning opportunities where there will be climate support, but you won't put in a climate manager in all of the buildings during the regular school year. So, again, why are we putting so much geared towards summer? But then the reality of being in school all year, if we are not going to really strategize and think about this, if you ask any administrator, a climate manager is needed. They manage, they oversee, they get on top of things before it starts. So when we hear bullying is out of control in the school district of Philadelphia. A climate manager will strategize and have those programs in place prior to bullying. And if there are incidents that occur, they have opportunities to set up, for peer mediation and programs like that before it gets out of hand. Then you maybe at a certain point you won't need a bullying hotline because you have put the money. The school needs should direct the budget, not the budget trying to direct the school needs. So we just wondering, I'm not against summer programming because I think it's important, especially, after we're coming off a pandemic, but I do think that if you are putting all of these pieces in place for the summer for a short period of time, why are we not looking at long-term and the gains that we can get if we really looked at having a climate manager in every building?
Because you're talking about invested in 8 weeks compared to 10 months. Like,
that's it.
So we're going to go to Don. Is he still there? Don from Center City? He's on a call.
Yes.
Hey,
yes,
Don, how are you?
Hi. How you doing? Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks, Dr. Cooper, for being on today. Dr. Cooper, how do you think schools can use the American Rescue Funds and other funds to support in-school and after-school social-emotional learning programs to help our students adapt to coming back to school if and when the school district sends the money to the school level?
How can they use it?
Yeah, how can it help the programs? How can it help the students get into programs? How can the schools fund programs if they have the money to help with the social-emotional learning?
Well, we have a lot of, first of all, I think you're going to have to use a bulk of that money right there and for social-emotional just the overall how children are feeling coming off the pandemic. It's a lot of depression that's going on currently. It is just a lot of the isolation. Children are acting out. Children need to be in school. We've always said that. We've always said our children need to be socialized and so forth. And however, when they come to school and they still have to be distant 6 feet apart and all of those parts, you still are not quite there where the socialization piece is in full effect. So you are going to need programs to be able to deal with all of that around the pandemic and the lengthy amount of time that they've been out of school. So that's very different than the regular social emotional pieces that children are missing. So we just have to really sit down. But again, we just want stakeholders' input, from the school district to DHS to parents. All of these entities have to come together, because when it's only one entity making the choice, you could go through $1.2 billion quickly.
Well, it'll be something like the soda tax too. Everybody had their heart set that the money was going to come and we was going to see it in the school district, and they're still asking, where's the money from the soda tax? So with that being said, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back with Dr. Robin Cooper and myself with more Labors Live.
Thank you.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Nappy-style hair products are formulated for today's Black men and women's hair, embracing ancestral hairstyles. Come and experience these products: beard oil for men, cream paste, and napping gel growth oil for braids. Go to www.nappystyles.com or The Movement in Mount Airy, 7133 Germantown Avenue, or African Cultural Art Forum, 221 South 52nd Street, or Culture Exchange, 1450 Point Breeze Avenue. Be happy to be nappy.
You probably heard it before, but one of the best ways to stay safe from COVID is by avoiding crowds. That's better. Also, when you're out in public, make sure you stay 6 feet away from strangers or people you don't live with. It's okay to say, "Can I have some space, please?"
Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, and we can expect much.
If you're gonna have a get-together with friends and family, have it outside. And remember to keep those 6 feet of social distance. And last but not least, wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth with no gaps. They slow the spread of COVID or new forms of the virus called variants. And make sure you get your vaccine when it's your turn. We're all out here trying our best, and it's making a difference. We just gotta keep it up. We can do this.
To learn more about slowing the spread, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
Okay, welcome back to more Labors Live. We're here with Dr. Robin Cooper from CASA. Listen, we have Diane from South Philly, Robin. We have Diane on from South Philly. Diane?
Diane.
Good afternoon, Tony, and your guest. Tony, I'm enjoying your program. Very Friday. I look forward to listening to you. You're doing a wonderful job. Yeah. And, you know, I look at Jersey school system. I have a lot of family that goes to the Jersey school system. And their school Sunday is running pretty good. And one thing I like, one of the things that I like about these schools is they have good counselors. And every month, they, you know, each child had to go to the counselor. They talk to them and see if there's anything going on, what's going on in their lives, you know, things like that, which we don't have in the Philadelphia school system. And that makes it different because a lot of those children have problems at home. You know, they have different kind of issues, and they're able to talk to the counselor. And also, they also have training programs, you know, like programs, you know, when they get out of school, they don't want to go to college. They can, you know, go into the training, like automotive, you know, training like that. And I noticed in our Philadelphia schools, We don't have nurses in every school. We should get, a nurse should be in every school, because a young man at Hot Tramp in North Philadelphia, Ace in Cumberland, he had an attack. He died. We never heard what happened to that little boy, but they didn't have a nurse. And a lot of our children is suffering with diabetes at a young age, and no nurses are in the school. I think that is insane. And it's mostly in our neighborhood, not in the other neighborhood. But we have to fight more for our children, too. You know, I'm not going to blame it all on the system. It's something the parents have to do, too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they took a lot out of the support systems, rather, where it was a full-time support system, you know, with the schools. A lot of time you have nurses, but they're part-time. They're on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you know. They just remove so much from us. Like Robin said, you know, we don't need temporary fixes. You know, we need permanent people in these positions to help assist our kids, so our kids can talk to, relate, feel comfortable. I mean, they've taken so much out of the schools. They don't even look like, you know, mimic when we were there. You know, you had gym every day. You know, you had shop. I mean, I remember in middle school, I'm not talking about a CTE school in high school. I'm talking about middle school shopping. You were, you know, sewing classes, home economics, art, music. Those are just like, in some schools they have some things, in other schools they don't. You know, and which I don't understand why these schools aren't mirroring everybody should be able to mirror each other. When you say premier district, that's what it should be. The investment should be across the board. I mean, I know some schools have alumni that donate and things of that nature, but guess who our alumni are? The politicians that we, you know what I'm saying, that we put in. Those are our alumni to support the public school system. Let's just be honest, because that's the way the constituents, they put their faith into the politicians. And I'm not saying it's all their fault or anything, but they are the ones that have a say in this. It's not just a one person's decision, like you were saying, you know, to carry the budget or to say this is what, you know, you're dealt with the cards and do what you can. It should be across the board. Everyone should be in conversations, negotiating what's the best interest of our kids.
Yes, and especially our representatives, our state representatives, our councilmen, you know, in their district, a school should be the first priority in their district. Make sure that they all have good running schools. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Thank you so much. I can say more because it just frustrates me so bad to see our children
get Diane,
treated like this.
A part of the problem too is, like I think we have great counselors. I think they're probably just as good as Jersey. The problem is they don't get the opportunity. So again, if you are stretched and a part of your job responsibilities now have to do with special education, when there should be a person that's assigned specifically for that, so then now you can't pull your children once a month to really talk to them about counseling and what college you want to go to, and we're going to sit and map all of these things out because you're stretched wide and thin. And so where in other places they have people that are fully released, you know, everybody is really, it's stacked on top of the already caseload that they have. This is why we're saying a fully released math leader, a fully released literacy leader, because we think, you know, people leave Philadelphia and they go to those jobs and they're easily swept up because people know good things come out of Philadelphia. They take them with no problem. The suburbs take Philadelphia people. They take them, they do well. We are ahead in a lot of things. It's just that we have to work 2, 3, 4 times as hard as our counterparts in the suburbs. And we're saying, you know, we want to thrive, and we can do that if we can get out of survival mode.
Well, we really do appreciate it. I know I read somewhere that they were saying, well, you know, in the budget, you know, please, we won't have enough for raises. Well, guess what? Maybe the teachers aren't looking for raises if you put the permanent people in place to help them so they're not stretched so thin. But right now, listen, if you're wearing 5, 10 different hats, you're going to need the extra money to survive. But that's the problem. You may not need a raise if you put a person to oversee a department, to oversee an area, to take the pressure off me. That's what really folks don't understand and they don't see. And that's why when you put this survey together and you guys came up with these priorities that's like cross every T and dot every I. I mean, look at it. The numbers for special, ed children are 30 to 40% in the school district. Those are a lot of children. And that whole department should be funded. You should feel it. You should see it. And you don't. Like you said, it's not trickling down to the schools. It might be there. There might be a lot of money that's invested, but you guys don't see it. You have teachers having to make, decisions. Do I bring in a counselor or do I bring in my teacher? Which one? This is what you're working with. Why can't we all work for the greater good? And you can tell somewhere that there is some division, because I believe that it wasn't, the school district would look much better in the eyes of schools. You understand? So you can tell somewhere that people aren't connecting, people aren't being transparent with others. You can see and sense that because the school district would look totally different. Am I lying or?
No, you are right. You are right on point. You just can't do more with less, and we have to stop waiting for tragedies to occur. We can't not have a nurse. That's like expected, that every school has a nurse, every school has a counselor, and that's what we're saying. Properly fund our schools, because you do have, and I'm gonna go one further. There is enough money for all of these things. And I'm saying, and when I say enough money, I'm talking about if you really prioritize what's important, and maybe something else should fall by the wayside, but not to the detriment of schools. So it is, if there are positions that are cut, they're cut to the schools first. And so these are things that are necessary and then that are needed. And what do we know about the district? We absolutely know that when it comes time to talk about raises for these people who have been working 5 and 6 jobs. So think about it. If you're working 5 or 6 jobs, you're really getting minimum wage or less than. So you're doing all of this, and then when you come up for contracts, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have the money. But you can't continue to ask people to do more. We want you to do more, do more, do more. So if my children start at, let's say, 30% reading, and then I move them and now they're at, let's say, 40%, 45%. But when I go for my evaluation, the evaluation still says, well, your children are not on reading level, so you are a poor educator. But I move my children incrementally, so I cannot erase years of non-learning. But if I move my children and we are moving in the right direction, then how do you you don't reward your people, but rather you say the children
discourage them.
Exactly.
Discourage them. So listen, we have a call. If he's still on, Dr. Maggiano.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hello, how are you? I'm sorry, how are you?
I'm well, how are you today?
I'm good. We got about a minute because the show was only an hour, but what do you have to say? And thank you so much for joining. We appreciate you.
No problem. I'm going to make my question very quickly. I tuned into the meeting that Dr. Cooper and her team had yesterday with the various politicians, and I recall hearing her say something as though one of the district people made a comment to a principal that if their plate is full, they should get another plate. And so here's what I'm wondering. We know that the research says that teachers are the most important person to student learning in a school. However, the principal is the second person that is instrumental to student learning. How can this money be used to add additional supports to principals, like giving them maybe mentors or coaches to help make their schools better? Because we're all coming back with our children when we go to school in September. Hopefully we'll be full-time by then, and, they just need more support. So who can be there? How can this money be used to do that and to support our teachers and give them the coaches and stuff that they need beyond those literacy and math leaders.
We got about 30 seconds, Robin.
That's it's a powerful, loaded question, and that's what we want the public to know. We want the public to really know, to get involved in the schools and really understand that teachers, administrators, all of these positions are vital and they are desperately needed. And so people don't really spend a lot of time talking about administrators. Administrators, they have to make that whole building run, and they have to do it on a shoestring budget and almost beg teachers to buy supplies for their children. So we are asking, looking at this pot of money, how we can have input into what we need to be able to move our schools. Because when we come back in September full time, we need to hit the ground running to be certain that our children get back the year that was lost because of the pandemic.
Well, with that being said, I thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Robin Cooper, I'm so happy. I'm putting her on blast. She has agreed to join me every second Friday, and we're going to call it, our education segment on the Labor's Live show, because this is informative information that our members need, our community need, and we need to keep them abreast of really what's going on. For those who missed the Facebook Live and all the Zoom meetings that go on throughout the district and the city. So thank you so much for, joining me on those days to come, those Fridays. Everyone, please, please, please have a great weekend. I do want to say condolences go out to the Staten family. Mr. Sam Staten Jr., his family had lost their brother, Michael Scott, and their aunt Carolyn Carroll in the fire in Tioga Street, on Tioga Street, about 2 weeks ago. So our condolences. We want to send them out to the Staten family. Once again, thank you for joining me, Dr. Robin Cooper. I'll see you next month. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Troy, thank you so much for holding down the boards and the line and everything. WRD 900 AM. We appreciate everyone giving us this platform. And you were listening to Labor's Live. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you next Friday.